Now, entrepreneurs in Mauritius have been receiving a lot of attention lately. The government and the private sector are giving recognition and support to entrepreneurship development. For more on driving entrepreneurship in Mauritius, we are joined by Larry Farrell, who's the CEO of Larry Farrell Company. Larry, thanks so much for making the time to join us. I've just picked up something very interesting. You wrote a book in about 2003. I think it was published in 2003 and was called Getting and Growing Your Business in the 21st Century. Perhaps you can tell us why this is a good time for anybody to become an entrepreneur.
Well, thanks for having me. It's the best time in all history for entrepreneurs, and the reasons for that are that it's the best way to combat unemployment, the best way to combat poverty, and create some prosperity for yourself, your family, and even your country. So this is the golden age of entrepreneurship around the world, I'm happy to say.
A golden age for entrepreneurship. Larry, you're also the founder of the Farrell Company, rather, where you do research and you teach entrepreneurship. Now, would you say that when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's something that can be learned, or is it something that someone is born with?
Well, our business is teaching it, so obviously we believe that it's something you can teach other people to do. But the fact is that most entrepreneurs today are starting businesses because they've either lost their job and out of economic necessity, they have to do something, or on the other hand, the fastest growing class of entrepreneurs in North America, for example, are retired people. So these are not people that were born with this in their genes. They're people that either see an opportunity or have an economic necessity to do that. So it's quite a myth that the entrepreneurs are born, not made, I would say.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting because you're also mentioning people that perhaps are retired or the older generation as entrepreneurs. Do you think that we have enough mechanisms or perhaps support for them to venture off and become successful entrepreneurs? A lot of that seems to be targeted towards the younger generation, or am I wrong?
Well, you're probably right. We think typically of younger people thinking about, but the average entrepreneur in the United States, for example, a startup entrepreneur is 35 years old. So we're not talking about teenagers by and large, and we're not always talking about 65-year-olds either, but it goes across the entire spectrum. But I would say that the reason I'm in Mauritius is to address a conference of African investment boards. They're all here, 30 countries, African countries are here for a big conference hosted by the Board of Investment in Mauritius. And I'm very keen to meet these delegations. I've met some today and we'll meet them in the next couple of days on what could be done across Africa to spur entrepreneurship development. It's the driving force of most successful economies across the world, and certainly it's something that African nations should and I think are increasingly considering as how can the government play a role in that. It's a terribly important point. And so I'm looking forward to meeting these people and seeing what could be done within the various African economies.
Well, Larry, you are there. Unfortunately, we aren't there. So what message will you be sending? What needs to be done by governments in order to foster this entrepreneurial spirit? Well,
let me say this, that government actually plays a terribly important role in creating an entrepreneurial culture in a country. And I mean, I think anyone would agree with that. But it turns out that in markets where there's not a high savings rate and there's not a history of entrepreneurship, the government almost has to intervene. But here's the good news. It's one of the best investments government can make. The average cost of a micro startup is about $10,000 US around the world on average. And this is really a bargain for government to help create a company for as little money as that to help people get started. So, of course, I'm very passionate about it. I think it's the way to go. But it's much cheaper, for example, for the government to help a family start a small business, a micro business, than it is to keep that family on the dole or send one of their children off to a very expensive university such as Harvard or MIT or whatever, and the example I like to use the most is the average cost of keeping a criminal in prison in the U.S. for a year is $45,000. Well, for $14,000, you can help a family start a company. So it's a tremendous investment, and most government economists around the world today agree. And so that has been a big help to our business, that we have the voice of the economists of the world saying government should actually try to invest in creating a more entrepreneurial economy.